Welcome to Dogcast Live. We thought we'd have a special version of Dogcast, which has been a popular podcast during the coronavirus lockdown, with Betfred Super League returning this Sunday against Leeds Rhinos taking Huddersfield Giants here at Emerald Henley Stadium. We thought we'd go do a live version and all the technical problems that presents itself with, but we're getting through that. First of all, before we get started, some good news, particularly for the dog himself from Dogcast. Brad Dwyer signed a new 2-year contract with the Rhinos. Brad, you must be delighted to have the contract signed.
Yeah, over the moon. Really enjoying being in Leeds. Probably one of the easiest decisions I've had to make, contract-wise. You get a bit older, a bit wiser. It gets a bit difficult sometimes when you are doing a contract. It's looking at other people and how much you could be earning somewhere else. But just at this stage of my life, just how happy I am, that's just made it really easy for me. Really enjoying my rugby, really enjoying living at Leeds. A lot of trust in Kev and Rich. So it was an easy decision, and the group, a great group of blokes as well. So I'm really enjoying being around them, really learning from them off the field, never mind the rugby. So yeah, it's just a good place to be in, and made up to staying for another 2 years.
And Rich talks about contracts, obviously the tough position that every club's in at the moment, but good to have this one over the line and get it secured ahead of Sunday's game.
Yeah, absolutely, and well deserved as well. And you know, we've got a relationship good enough as player and coach, but also probably individually that I can take my Leeds Rhinos coaching hat off and chat to him in a real open and honest way about everything, where he's at, career, his options. And I just thought it was a great sign for us that when we talked about re-signing, whether we wanted to sign for a year or two, we felt that taking a little bit of uncertainty out of it at a fairly uncertain time, but also we feel that he's deserved that too. We asked Brad to make some changes, and we feel that his game's not reached the levels that it can yet get to, but also the improvements he's made after some work in the off-season, talking about his whole I guess the whole package as a professional, where we could see him making improvements and the adjustments he's had to make, and the way he started the season has been great for us, and we've seen all those improvements, him personally striving to achieve that. So a little bit different with the recruitment market, Phil, because with the competition stopping as it was, that period where the evolution of what we were going to do this year and next year, obviously we lost that, and it's created a whole amount of uncertainty in the game, and we just felt that Brad had more than warranted us going back to him quite early to get this deal done. And at the same time from him, while a lot of players will, and quite rightly so, explore the options, he didn't really do that. He made it his priority to stay with us, which I only saw as a real positive sign.
You're watching Dogcast Live, special edition of Dogcast ahead of the return of the Betfred Super League this Sunday. The Rhinos take on Huddersfield Giants, kick-off 6:30 p.m. Brad, you've been very honest in the Dogcast, talking about your life and the challenge you faced. Rich has touched on it there. How much of a boost is it to have this new contract degree? Because you reflected in your Dogcast about how yourself and Rich had very different opinions about how last season went for you. And you've had to address some things, and you've done that, and you've got this new deal.
And we're still working on it. He ran me up the other day that it's not just about me at training. He's come in and he said, "Don't worry, some drills are for you, some drills aren't for you." So we're still working on it. But like I said, one of the important things is that we've got that relationship. That I'm able to work on things and improve on things. I'd always prefer that to have a coach like that than just be sat still and making mistakes and not really knowing. But yeah, personally for me, it's really good, and like I say, it was just so easy for me because I got to a stage where gratitude was a massive thing. It's what I spoke about all the way through, and just accepting what you've got and what you can't change it. And I'm really happy at the moment. I found myself in a lot of time just reflecting on what I've got and the opportunities I've got, and to play for Leeds Rhinos and never mind what you're getting paid, but to get paid for it is something to be grateful for. So to be doing that for another 2 years, I'm over the moon, and like I said, it just gives me some stability in my life, and I can sort somewhere decent to live, because it's not great where I'm living at the minute, so I can get that sorted. But Rich has just got a mansion. He's a couple of weeks off getting a mansion, isn't he? So he's promised me the annex, he says.
There's a story to that. It's not as simple as buying a mansion. Let me tell you that. Throwing under the bus a bit there.
Well, we talked about is to let you into the we did have a bit of a slight technical issue here. We did our first attempt at this and realised I'd put it onto the wrong page on Facebook. So if you find Brad watching his clock to see where he needs to get away, he's got 2 dogs at home. For those who watch Dogcast will know that, and they're currently tearing his flat to pieces.
Can we get this straight? You've got 2 Facebook accounts.
I know, yeah.
That sounds dodgy. That sounds dodgy.
Mrs. will be going mad.
Leeds Rhinos and my personal one.
This is a good job you cleared that up, Rich.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, the pooches will be at home, and it was late already because Gail's had he's been keen to get back like the competitor it is. So a couple more sets after training that we probably didn't have planned because Gail wanted us out there, but hopefully we've got it up and running this time.
He's that keen. He's got himself a new scar this week as well.
Oh yeah, he has. So he's gonna go mad. But yeah, the ear transplant that he had when he had his skull cap on, that might be coming out this weekend because he's had a bang on his eye. So the old skull cap will be coming back.
I'm a bit worried about that tape. When he takes that tape off, what he's going
to
leave, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Gail.
Right, on Dogcast Live now, I'm going to hand over to these guys. Obviously, we've had loads of great feedback from people during lockdown who've enjoyed Dogcast. Brad's going to pick out some of his best bits. Rich has watched quite a lot of them as well, so he's going to pick out some. And we'll just have a chat around that, and I'll hand it over to you guys.
Cheers for that. So, the theme through lockdown, I spoke to quite a lot of people about how lockdown was affecting them, and a lot of people were saying they're reflecting, and that changed throughout. I think ours was the first one that we did, and we spoke a bit about that. You was doing a bit of walking and stuff. I think we're still, even though lockdown's easing, and we're getting back to some normality, I think it's probably the biggest learning period that we have. I've shocked myself, I've learned something new since we've been going back to some sorts of norm, being able to go for meals and training, and it's the new term. I'd never heard of it before. It came out of Reece Martin's mouth last week, was FOMO, so it's fear of missing out, and that is massive. You're not massive on social media, so I don't think that really affect you, but it's basically just seeing other people doing things, and then when their life looking perfect, and that's certainly had an effect on me since we've gone back to training and that, and that's probably something I missed in lockdown because no one was doing anything, everyone was sat still, so that's probably a reason that everyone was happy. So that's one thing that I've reflected on, is there anything that you'd say now, since you've got back to the norm, or some sort of norm, that you've slipped back into your old ways or not?
Well, it's probably different for me because I'm probably at a different stage in my life, so self-reflecting and sort of worrying about some of that stuff. Yeah, I didn't worry too much. I sort of went with the flow in lockdown, and now we're back in work, even though lockdown's still on. The fact that we're working, it's very much business as usual for that, and if I found myself doing anything different, and I find this when I go on holiday, it always takes me 2 or 3 days before I stop thinking about rugby and work, and then a couple of days before it's time to come home, I start thinking about it again. So really, I get 2 days holiday a year where you're not really thinking about it. But I don't mind that either. That's certainly not a complaint. But I think what I purposely tried to do, well, not think that every day in lockdown, because I think it were a fair assumption early doors that we were going to be locked down for a while and rugby were going to be off for a while. So I didn't stress myself out thinking, I've got to be bombarding you blokes with football 24/7, and the same for myself. Such was a period of time that I knew we would have 2, 3, 4 weeks leading in where we could get back into the swing of things and get our mind adjusted. So I felt it was important that we kept together virtually, however we did, which we did some Zoom calls with some tremendous individuals really. I thought that were a great little learning aspect for us all.
Something that we'd have never done as well.
Yeah, something that we would have never done, knowing full well that I'd get that 3 or 4 weeks to come back into it. But given that we were going to have a longer season and more intense, from start to finish, we'll have been going more than 12 months. I felt it were important that you did get opportunity to freshen up in that time and almost create the hunger to come back. So for myself personally, it ebbed and flowed for me. I went on the old fitness routine, back garden workouts, as you can tell, back garden workouts, walking, trying to get dietary elements in my life right, and then went full circle where I thought, I've had enough of this. This is all bogging me down a bit. And started ordering French wine off the internet and going the other way, so I need to lose it again now. So did things that I didn't normally do or wouldn't get as much chance to do, watching different things on television. I'm not a fictional watcher. I watch some of the Amazon Prime documentaries and some stuff on Netflix, and so some factual stuff, historical stuff. Saw a bit more of my kids. It were a good opportunity. That my children don't live with me, so to see a little bit more of them than I normally would. But in terms of reflection, look, I didn't struggle with it. There were times where I suppose, like everyone else, I thought, I'm sick of this and over this, but generally managed myself, pretty well, and I'm never short of too much to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned the wine there, and I know we've got a few wine snobs a part of our squad. That's Gailey and Dono. They fall out over that because Gailey drinks it a bit too quick. Dono says doesn't enjoy it.
Yep.
So that seems to be a theme in lockdown. There's been quite a few, because I started off at Lambrini, but I've worked my way up now. I've worked my way to Villa Maria, so I'm educated.
Oh.
So I know where I'm at with my white wine. But that seems. But this comes way back before lockdown. So where does your love of wine come from?
For me, look, I've always. I don't mind admitting that. I don't mind beer and a social with the boys, as I think everybody would know that. But struggle with downing pints like I used to do when I was in your age and fit and doing what all you young blokes do these days. But when I coached France, a little bit of a legacy of that. Spent a bit more time in France, and the French are obviously very into the wine. We've got the real bonus at going to a couple of vineyards. We went down to Châteauneuf-du-Pape vineyard in Avignon, and basically got a lesson in wine tasting and a little bit of an appreciation for it. So both from the players, like Olivier Alima's got his own vineyard, Jamal Fakir had his own vineyard, and the management staff, who obviously a bit more senior, would take us out and give us a different take on it. So if we come across any bottles that I like, took a screenshot of it and order it a little bit, search it out on the internet and order it a little bit cheaper. I'm not like those two that have got I think they've got the app going out there, so scanning the bottles in the supermarket to read the reviews on it. I'm not as sophisticated as that yet, so I know what I like, and try different. It's been a good opportunity to try different ones in lockdown, because I guess like everyone, come the weekend, that'd be his opportunity to do what we, normally do, going to restaurants and having a glass of wine and stuff like that.
Yeah, so let's get into the rugby side of it. So there's so much unknown, and it was good that you spoke then about just giving us a rest, and that must have been difficult, because I know I was on the phone speaking about, what do you want from me? What should I be doing? And I know Harry Newman will definitely have been like that, and a couple of other people. So how hard was that to just not writing the fobbers off, but just say relax, and that's certainly been the way that we've come back. A lot of people would think that you've got 2 weeks, just flog them and get them ready, but it's certainly not been like that. The boys have come back in great shape, and it's just basically been structure really.
Look, we'll tell in time whether that's the right thing to do or not. But I was thinking, 13 months, and I guess at times the stresses and anxieties it caused thinking about it at times when you can't do anything about it. So in Harry's case, you're not going to tell Harry to relax, because he won't. So we set Harry some different challenges. Take your bag of balls up to the field and practice your kicking game, practice all the style and type of kicks that a centre would have to find in any given situation. And he's filming himself, sending me his kicking game, and he really improved it. Whereas a couple of guys we had on saying that they were really struggling with the motivational aspect of it, not on the running, but certainly you know what it's like to set your weights up in your back garden every day and get through your weights program. When you haven't got the proper gym, when you haven't got your mates to compete with you, I could understand why that would have challenged. But I just felt to myself, within a season, we would always find 5 days off, 7 days off. There's always a point in the season where you get a rest. So I can remember telling one player, look, don't do any weights this week. And I'm pretty sure that if you go away and do something different, then by Monday, my experience of professional rugby players is they don't like going too long without doing too much, because you feel yourself sort of ebbing away and you miss it. You start to feel the losses that you suffer in your detriment. So I thought, 3 or 4 days away, that'll spark your motivation and reinvigorate yourself to get back going. And there were always that unknown about what being away were going to be like for us, and until we actually turned up and saw you on day one, we didn't know. So the build-up that you did in the 3-4 weeks prior to coming back, I think it's fair to say, and I think most clubs, to be honest, from other coaches and players I've talked about, which has been terrific, you know, a terrific sort of, indictment's probably the wrong word I'm looking for here, but endorsement for the type of kids that we've got in the game, that they've come back in such good nick. We won't tell until game day how much it's affected us, but yeah, no, really good.
So looking forward now, and obviously like you said, there is so much unknown, and it's only going to be like the stuff that we're speaking about, reflecting on lockdown and getting through that. Like, we're only learning now what's actually it's going to be like, and that's the same for rugby. But what would you say is going to be key now to be successful from now on? We've also said the unknown of this mini pre-season that we've had, the new rule changes, the short amount of games that we've got now.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be a different sort of a season. So will you be any worthy champions if you win this year as opposed to other years? No, I think the team that finishes top and wins the grand final will still get those feelings of being the champions, and rightly so, because it's just thrown a different set of circumstances. You know, COVID, the break, the financial impact. Our teams have answered that. We're all in the same boat. Congested fixture list. Less games, you know, it's not the 10-11 month marathon that we usually have. There's a lot condensed into one. How you use your squad and battle through some of those situations. So I think there's been a lot thrown at us on the run, and the team that adapts best and works through some of those unknown situations, uses its squad, adapts to the new rules. There'd be a different element of toughness and resilience within that is going to see the team come out on top at the end of this year, and you know, the champions will be the champions, albeit in probably a different adaptation in the way it's going to evolve.
So obviously it's been a difficult period, missing the rugby, and then when it started to get to the point, we're going to start coming back, then the talks of pay cuts came. And the reason I'm bringing it up is just a sign of the group that we've got, and we spoke to you quite a bit. I know I spoke to you and a few other boys did, just that how it was affecting different people, and we wanted to make sure as a group, all the stuff, because we'd been in such a bad place as a group previously, and we got to such a good place, we didn't want this situation affecting us as a group. I just think how good of a sign is that we came through that situation with the pay cuts, and we all stood by each other, knowing that there was other people affected a lot more than some of us.
Look, it's really difficult because it's such a personal subject and such an emotive subject, and everybody's circumstances are different, you know, depending on where you were in the pay scale, how long, you know, you were out of contract, so that presented different issues for guys that were out of contract too. So it's such a personal and emotive subject. It's a very difficult one for the club, because I think we all appreciate the club is going to take an absolutely enormous whack. Straight away you get agents like vultures circling, thinking, well, if that's a pay cut, he's a free agent, I'll shop him round here, there and everywhere. The time off and the pay cut stuff creates uncertainty, and there's nothing players appreciate more, whether it's good or bad, is the certainty of the situation. Look, I've been coach of a club in Wakefield that, they won't mind me saying it now because it's under different ownership, but there's nothing to tip your place upside down than pay issues. So, you know, my first year at Wakefield, you know, we had no money to start with. We ended up making the playoffs. Second year, we were on the cusp of the playoffs again. Then the pay stuff hit it. You know, late payments, and as we've seen with Toronto now, late payments, uncertainty, losing players, and it tears your club apart. So we needed to get to the top and bottom of that and have some understanding on both sides. And I think at some point you almost come to a point as a club that think this could do some real damage to us, but what is the absolute alternative? You know, what's the alternative? So we had a strong appreciation of what our players were going through, and our staff. You know, our staff have all taken and still on, you know, sizable pay cuts. But also sitting down with Gary, you know, were interesting, and I think the way that it's communicated between both sides is obviously the key to it. I think being open and transparent and communicating, and you blokes going away and having a couple of spokespeople, Also, the danger of WhatsApp groups, because WhatsApp groups, you know, there's some drama can escalate very, very quickly on WhatsApp groups. So I think to get your representatives to come in, I think there's a lot of trust in Kevin, in the way, you know, Kevin is a guy that, when you're talking about being straight and honesty and integrity, I think we all know that is very much the case, and he would go into bat for the players where Gary's concerned. But having just that understanding, and we sat with Gary, yourself, there were another 5 players in there, I think, and there were a real desire from the players to get it sorted before we came back in training, which I thought were great. You know, there was certainly no threats of strike action, and as of now there is no competition, which are just silly statements really. I think our guys just said, look, we understand, we get back on board, and I think we had to steel ourselves for along the way. We might get an agent, a rogue agent, and there might be a casualty or 2 on the way, but you know, that was the difficult spot we were in.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing on it all, was everyone knew that it was going to be a hit, but it was just getting the balance of everything. And there was a press release yesterday that came out about our fans, and how good the fans have been by not taking rebates and that, and that's massive. And like I said, the players have took a hit, and that's sweet, but I just think everyone, like I said, the fans have took a hit, and they're copying that, the club has. And for example, Phil, all these Dogcasts, the amount of hours that Phil will be on pay cuts just like we have. And that's the only thing that we had no content, so he's obviously firing around trying to get content out there, stuff like this, spending hours even though he's on pay cuts. So that's probably just a thanks from me, mate, is just the work that you're doing, even though you was copying it and doing it tough yourself. So it's stuff like that I think is important to mention. The fans, the players, and the staff that are taking these cuts and still doing whatever they can so there's only dranos in the future.
Nobody likes it. Nobody likes it, and it's tough. And I say it's a very, very emotive subject when you're talking about individuals, you're talking about families, and you're talking about rugby league players in particular who've got a short career. You know, especially guys that are coming to the end of their career as well, and haven't got that 10 years to recoup some of this back. And you've touched on it there. And Gary touched on it in the meeting. Do you understand and realise what it's like out there? And you know, we're probably the lucky ones considered what some what some businesses, and we're talking about, in some cases, you know, I know guys whose businesses, it's taken them 30 years to build a business up, and all of a sudden it's on the precipice and not having a business anymore. Families that will be struggling to feed the kids and stuff like that. So without going too much into all that, it is an overwhelming response from the people in and around the club that you know, sponsorship, membership, corporate, you know, our fan on the street has been so committed in and you know, so committed to helping us get through this period, and I think it's always been a trait of rugby league in general, that rugby league, I guess, is still looked at as predominantly a working class man's game, but in times of trouble, you know, since with Rob Burrs, Danny Jones, you know, the number of Steve Prescott over the years, you know, tough times do tend to bring out the best in you know, in the rugby league community.
Just to finish up, we'll just, obviously we said reflect on, we're not sure about the future of Dogcast. I think we're going to stick to the rugby, even though it went alright. But who knows, depending on the rugby, if there's not a Fed this year, is there? So this might earn the money by doing this. So
see, that's the anxiety in him playing out again, isn't it? He's having a little question mark on camera here.
But just a reflection of the Dogcast. I know you used text there. Is there any more coming out? So you obviously watched quite a few, and I'm going to give you my 3 favourite and the reasons why, if you can come up with some. Mine probably the one with Fats, just because how much he'd done for me, and to give him a bit of a platform, because the job he does, not many people know the good that he does, and I know on the back of that we have quite a few people messaging in for some help off Fats, and he got that, he got out there and helped people, so that was just an important one for me to do, and he's been massive in my development, and just to repay him really, and just give him a bit of a platform and help him out. The other one was Barry Mack, just because of how much I could relate, and I never really thought that I would, to him losing his eye and getting some motivation through it. and ended up successful in their career. And the TS one, which I've already spoke about, just how much sat back and how far I've come. And you mentioned that to me about the Gary one, saying that I got to a point where I could interview CEO of a club. And so there was mine. And
I think it's difficult for a player to sit in front of a CEO and interview a CEO, but talk on the level you need to talk to make that podcast work. I also think Gary, history will judge Gary as a very, unique character within the game. A guy that put his whole family on the line to start Sheffield up. The successes, but the challenges he's had going through Leeds. He's been a player coach, administrator, players union rep. He's just everything the game's to offer. But I think as we get to know Gary personally, he's he has got a very strong attachment to the history and the heritage of the game, and I think he's really, really good in that aspect. So I thought Gary's got an interesting story, and I think there's also an inquisitive curiosity from people watching it that they might see a quote, they might see a 10-second interview on Sky TV or stuff what Phil does, and they might see a quote in a paper and get on the forums and draw a radically different opinion of what people, so I guess what I'm saying is there's a human side to it too. And you see the impact that people like Fats have on our organisation. I always enjoy watching Smithy because Smithy's, he's a highly intelligent, deep thinking human being, and he's always got a good story as told. So I watched it to see how you were going. I also watched it to see, if there were any good sort of interesting stuff at that time. Certainly that were to do with our club and people that have been in our club, both past, present, and future. And as I say, some of the, I guess, human sides of it. So I enjoyed. I didn't watch them all, Dog. I don't want to let you down too much here and burst your bubble.
Basically, he watched one. And I texted him and he watched his own back, that's it.
Oh, cringing. No. I watched more than I didn't watch, mate. There were only one or two that I didn't watch. So, I enjoyed watching TS's. I enjoyed Gary's. I'm trying to think of some of the more light-hearted ones.
We had Connie on and we had shared a glass of wine.
Connie's good. Connie's were good and shared a glass of wine
with Gailey. Oh no, it weren't Gailey. Yeah, Gailey and
Richie and Alan on the sofa. Yeah, so no, a good diverse choice of stories and guests, and really good to see. I guess the reality and the personal side of it.
Yeah, that's probably one thing that I got out of it. The whole idea was to try and give people an insight of what the boys are like at training, but that's difficult because you can't force fun. It's like how that is out there is just the way it is, and it just happens. If you put a camera in front of people and try and force it, it is difficult to create it again.
Well, some people are very different at work to very different at home, aren't they? We've already had one player who we're not going to name, that he described himself as an extrovert at work but an introvert at home. I genuinely meant it too, didn't I? So draw your own conclusions on what that meant.
I think we'll wrap it up there, and just a thanks to you for coming on to us.
Yeah, congratulations.
Is that what we're doing?
I'm honoured. Yeah, congratulations.
And we'll see what the future holds for Dogcast, but that might be us.
Let's hope the's no second spike, eh?
Sorted. Done.